All right, good morning, students. As we done last, for our last lesson on Friday, we are programming our robots to grab the color cube. So instead of me printing out the homework, I'm going to or sending it through email as a PowerPoint file. I'm going to do it through a video tutorial. Okay, so we were programming our robots to grab the color cube. So the program is to drive forward, bring our arm down around the cube, drive backwards, and have our arm raised back up. So let's open up our Lego Mindstorm software. As you can see, it's the icon for it. Actually, let's minimize this so it won't be on the screen all day long. Excuse my computer, it's a bit slow. Uh, until I get a new one. So right now, it's going to be recorded on this laptop. It's been running for a little bit. Excuse the slowness of the computer. All right. So once the NXT program, not NXT, sorry, EV3 software has loaded up, what we want to do is come over here to File, click on File. Now it's in the same as the printed out step-by-step instructions you should have in your folder or in the email on your computers exactly as I saved it. You want to click on New Program. You want to click on Program, and then click on Open. Okay, and it should bring us to our our EV3 programming desktop or environment, which is a graphic user interface or GUI, as we learned earlier in our class. GUI is GUI or graphical user interface, and everything is in modules. Okay, now let's collapse this over here. We won't be using this at all for right now. Okay, so let's do a quick run through of the programming environment. All of our programs and functions are located down here in each one of these color tabs. This is where we're attaching our programming blocks to. This is where our name of our project is. Actually, we're going to give our own custom name for our project. It's also going to be, and below that tab is program. Over here, when we connect our robot, I'm actually going to connect mine through USB at the moment. Over here shows the different methods of which our robot is connected to our computer. For example, right now mine is connected through USB. Down here, it will show the different ways we can connect our robots through USB, through Bluetooth, through Wi-Fi. In order for the Wi-Fi, we have to have a Wi-Fi dongle that connects to our NXT block. Through Bluetooth, yeah, I believe your computers have Bluetooth built into it. And right now, for our primary source of connection, we're going to be using USB just to program our robot. This section right here shows all the ports that are connected to our robot. As you can see, A, B, and C. A has the medium motor, B and C using our drive motors. Okay. D is not connected to anything. 1 through 4 is our sensor ports, which we do not have connected at the moment. And we go back up into the top. Let's leave it here. This also shows our battery indicate the battery level, which my battery is pretty much charged up. And our settings for wireless setup, which we're not going to be using right now. Now, the first thing we're going to do is before we actually start programming our robot, what we're going to do is first we want to actually save this project. We're going to give it a name so that way we'll know when we save it, when we download our project to our robot, it will have a name. So I'm going to give mine a name of Color Cube Grabber. Now, as you notice, I've done it before. This is the third time I'm recording this video because the first 2 times I had trouble recording it. So I'm just going to give it the same name as before. I'm just going to save over this one. I'm going to name mine Color Cube Grabber. So I'm going to save it. And I'm going to say yes. For you, this is not going to happen because I'm just doing it. I'm just writing over an existing program. So I'm just going to click yes. So this is going to be the name of my program, Color Cube Grabber. All right. Now let's quickly go through the tabs again. Let's quickly go through the tabs. The first one, which is the green tab, has our motor blocks. As you can see, we have the first one is a medium motor. This one is one large motor. This one right here, we can control the motors individually. This right here is a move steer. We can actually have the robot turn left or right, not back and forth, as that was my mistake the last class. I thought I told you to use this block to move the robot, go back and forth, which is not correct. This one is the tank drive. This one we can actually also control, which is our primary block we're going to be using, which is going to make the robot drive forwards and backwards, and then we can have the robot spin in circles using this block here. The same as with this one over here and this one as well, but this one we actually control the values a little more refined in that block. The display block, we can actually have faces and everything, but we're not going to add that at the moment. We could do that later when we use the touch sensor or the infrared or the color sensor. We'll do that later. This right here, we can add sounds, and we can control the status color of our light. As you can see right now, if your robot is turned on, you should have a green light. We can actually control those colors using this block right here. The orange block, orange tab, has our we can add an extra start section like this one up here. We can add an extra start one. We can have two programs running simultaneously at the same time. We can also add we can add wait blocks in between our functions. We add loops. Now we went over loops before, but we're gonna go over it again. I want to show you what a loop does. We can actually use switching, which you can actually have multiple programs again running simultaneously at the same time, or performing different actions and different sections of the of these little these are actually two different loops actually, but we can actually have different functions going on at the same time. And loop interrupts. Over here in the yellow tab is where we have all of our sensors. The only sensor that we currently have on our kit is the color sensor, gyroscope, and we do have the touch sensor, ultrasonic sensor. The ones we do not have at the moment, which I'm gonna have to get later, is the infrared sensor, and then get a remote control for our robot. We do not have the energy meter, and we do not have the temperature sensor at the moment. And also this, if you recognize this one, is the sound sensor from NXT section, NXT robots we had, the previous robots you were working with. We do not have a sound sensor, but we get those things later and to add for different experiments. Over here for our data operations, we'll be using a lot of math. For example, if you're using for like geometry, or basically using addition and subtraction to make the robot do different actions, using the division, multiplication, or any other, or greater than, less than math operations, or random thing for like random function or random chance functions for our robot to do different actions as well. Over here for the advanced tab, this will be a heavily scientific section where we have for data, checking our data, sending messages have the robot send messages between each other, Bluetooth functions, and so on. Okay, so these are and the last tab is the My Block section, where we can create our own blocks, own customized programs, and have them do different functions. But our primary section right now, we're just going to use the action block section. So the first block that we're going to use, and the primary two blocks we're going to be using is the move tank block and the module and the medium motor modules. Okay, so the first one I'm going to bring in is our move tank, right next to the start section here, the start play area. Okay, now as you notice, our settings is currently on rotations. Leave it on rotations. Do not change it. Let's leave it there on rotations. Alright, now this right here where it has 50, this is actually the power and direction, which way the motors will move. So if I put a negative in front of it, it's going to show that slider go below. So right now we're going to leave them both at positive 50 because that's going to make the robot drive forward. Okay. Over here is the number of rotations the robot's going to drive. We're going to leave it at 1. So the robot's going to drive forward for 1 rotation, and it's going to 1 rotation is approximately 10 to 12 inches in distance. So if you have a ruler on hand, make sure if you have your cube, put it between 10 and 12 inches, because that's how far the robot travels for 1 rotation. Now this last space right here, it has coast for the robot to stop. Brake and coast. Brake if the robot comes to a full stop. Coast brings the robot to a gradual stop. We're going to leave the robot on brake. So make sure you have a check mark to have the robot go on brake. To stop, come to a full stop. Okay, so the first now that we have this one block here, what we're going to do is come over here and download it to our robot. Now, make sure your robot is turned on. Okay. When your robot is turned on, the first tab you'll see on your robot, just make sure you see it looks. Sure that's highlighted. It should have like a play button. It should like a circle with the arrow in it. So it should look like a play button, or it should have some programs underneath it. But don't worry, we're not going to use those programs. But just make sure that the first tab you see is the one that looks like a play button. What you're going to do is once you download your program, okay. Okay, once your program is downloaded, on your NXT, you want to scroll over using the right arrow tab on your NXT. Come over to the one that looks like there is 2 pieces of paper stacked on top of each other. That's the tab you want to be in. Now make sure you see the program name that you save your program as. Okay, so in this case, mine says Color Cube. For you, may say something different. So make sure yours say whatever your program's name is. So mine is Color Cube. So I'm going to make sure I'm going to highlight the one that says Color Cube Grabber. Okay. Now below it, it's going to, when you click on that, click on the name of your program. Right below it's going to say Program. All right. Now make sure you disconnect your USB cord before running your robot and testing your programs. So now once you have the one that says on your NXT robot, not NXT, sorry, I keep on saying NXT and it's not NXT. Make sure your EV3 on your EV3 robot, make sure you have program highlighted, and then press the middle button to run your program. Now see, okay, that worked perfectly. All right, so our robot drove forward. Now, what we want to do is when it drives forward, is to have our arm come down. So the next thing we want to do is we want to bring our media motor block in. So we click on the media motor, bring it right next to your next to the block for your drive motor. Again, we want to leave this on rotations. We want to leave this on 50. The only thing we're changing is the amount of rotations. Okay, so what we're going to do is make sure your arm on your robot is fully up, because if it's halfway down or all the way down, this is going to mess up the program. So what you want to do is you want to make sure the arm on your robot is all the way up. Okay, all the way, and to the point that it's actually touching the NXT, not the NXT robot. Make sure it's touching the robot controller, the EV3 controller. Okay, make sure it's touching that. Now, once you have made sure that your arm is touching the robot controller, you want to come over here, because we want to make the arm come down once it approaches the brick, the color cube. So what we want to do is going to change this 1 to negative 0.5. Okay, this is going to bring our arm down. Okay, so once you have it, change it to 0.5. Leave this on brake. We don't want to change that. Connect your USB cable back to your robot. Download your program. Disconnect your cable and test your program. Now, make sure your program is highlighted on your robot controller. come down once you connect, clicked on that, you should see, clicked on the program's name, you should see program underneath, and then run your program to make sure it runs correctly. Okay, that worked perfectly. Okay, the arm came right around the cube. Now what we want to do next is we want to make the robot drive backwards with the cube. So what we want to do is now we want to drag in another tank move block, and we want to put it in right next to the medium motor block. Alright, so now only thing we're going to change is these two right here. Okay, we want to change these so the robot drives backwards. So the only thing we're going to do is, instead of changing the number 50 to go down, we want to put a negative in front of it. As you notice, the slider went from the positive side of the line, which is the divider here. This is going from 0 to 100 in this direction, and 0 to negative 100 in this direction. So if you have done the coordinate points or grids yet, you will notice that this right here will represent the X line on the X coordinate plane, and this right here represents the Y plane in this case. So we're going down negative 50. Okay, negative 50 in this direction, and the same thing for this side as well. We're going to put a negative sign in front of it. So now this is going to make our robot drive backwards. We're going to keep the one rotation, we're going to keep the brake. Okay, so make sure it's on rotations. We do not want to change that. Now let's reset everything. Make sure your arm is touching the robot controller. Make sure you have the brake in the distance, a good distance away from the robot. Go back to your robot controller, go back to your program, and run your program again. Let's see what happens after. This time it should drive forward. It's going to drive forward, grab the cube, then drive backwards. Also to note, I forgot to mention earlier to the program, I mentioned this earlier in the video, make sure your ports are B and C for the drive, A to grab it, A is for the medium motor, which is being used for the arm. I'm sorry for mentioning that so late, but just make sure we are using these ports, A, B, and C. Okay, I believe I might have mentioned it earlier in the video, but these are the ports we're using. Okay, so now let's test that last bit of code we just entered into our robot. And we should drive forward, grab the cube, and then, one thing we forgot to do, I have to download the program. It just went to the last program we did, so I have to download the program. So make sure you download the program before running it, which I made that small mistake. Okay, now let's do that again. So now let's run the program. Let's go back over, click and drive forward, grab the cube, drive backwards. Okay, worked perfect. Okay, now let's reset everything. Now since the arm is already down at this point, because right here the arm is down, now we want to raise the arm back up after we have driven backwards with the cube. So let's grab another medium motor block, and I'm going to put it on the end right over here. Now you notice negative 0.5 has the motor going down. What we're going to do is change over here. We're going to make the arm go back up 0.5. Okay, so now the arm should come back up to its original position, and then the program will stop. Alright, so let's grab our USB cable this time, Ruben, and connect it to the robot before running the program. And we're going to download the program to our robot. Now test it. Okay. Now make sure we go back to the program and run it. Make sure it's right. Good. That worked excellent. Now let's go through the program again. The robot drives forward for one rotation. It brings the arm down for a half of rotation. Once it has the arm comes down around a cube, the robot drives backwards for one rotation, and then after it has driven backwards for one rotation, it raises the arm up and the program ends. Okay, Now what we want to do is we want to make sure we save our program. Now, one indicator on this, what I like about this, it shows you that that we haven't saved any changes yet. You see this little asterisk right here, this little star right here. That shows that we have not saved our program. After every time we add something to it, it shows that there's nothing that change that we made hasn't been saved. What we want to do is to come over here. We can actually press Save Project As, or on our keyboard we press Control S to save our project. So let's press Save Project. And as you notice, that little asterisk is now gone to show that all the changes that we have made in our program is now a part of has been saved as a part of our program. Now, what I'm going to do at the end of this, after this demonstration section here, I'm going to attach a smaller video of what your program should have done, what your robot should have done after all this programming. I'm going to give you a quick rundown on how to navigate. I want to say excuse me for the cruelty of me holding the camera with my little camera, because the video might be a little fuzzy, but you'll get the idea. And plus I can show you again hands-on in person on Friday in our lessons. Okay. Also, I noticed some of you have your robots are in different wheel sizes again. Just make sure, like for example, one of your robots is using Ting treads, one of you have much larger wheel sizes, and one of you are using the actual standard size wheel for your robot. Just make sure you keep in mind that the distance is going to change. Maybe different between your robots. For example, one rotation, instead of it being 10 or 12 inches, it might be 8 inches. Or for example, if you're using Ting treads, it might be your wheel diameter smaller. It may be less. It may be, maybe more. So instead of it being 10 or 12 inches, it might be 14 inches. So keep that in mind, that your wheel sizes, if your wheel sizes are different, that your distance may vary. Also, make sure your arm is all the way up before you actually run the program. Make sure your USB cable is connected to your robot when you were to download it, and that all your motor ports are the same as what you have them connected. For example, to view it here, and it shows you which motors are connected to what. For example, let me just connect my USB cable back to my robot so you can actually see that again, and it will show you all the motor ports that we're using right now. So for example, A is the medium motor for our arm, and B and C is for our drives. Okay, so those are the things we should check for. Now I'm going to show you how to navigate and run your program. Okay, so I'm going to show you now how to navigate to your robot controller. First thing you want to do is you want to make sure you turn your robot on. Okay, as you see, when it turns on, when you notice the light is turning red. Excuse the messing up background on my desk. I usually make electronic projects on my desk, so that my desk is a little bit messy. Excuse a little bit of mess in the background. Okay, so the robot is turning on. Now, as I said before in the other videos, make sure your arm is all the way up before you run your program. So this is a full up position, like I said before. Now, when your robot is turned on, as I said before, you notice that it's in this little, let me try to get in a position where it's best to see, that it's actually in this like little play button section here. This is where, if you have run programs previously, these right here are actually the program that we just written from all the testing. It shows that it's been ran 3 different times. So what you want to do is, on your robot controller, you want to scroll over to the right one time. Now look for your program that your program. For example, mine's, as you can see, is named Color Cube Grabber. Okay, once you have your program highlighted, once it's highlighted, what you want to do is you want to press the middle button. Now if you notice, now it has a little section there, now it says program. That's where your program is to run your robot. Now you're going to press down on your controller. Okay, now it's highlighted. Now when you're ready to run your program, I'm just going to set mine up here, put my cube in position. Let's make sure it's in the right position. Yes. Put it in the position. Okay. Now, being that that section right there, program is highlighted, what you want to do is you press the middle button on your robot to run your program. And it should do this. That's what your program should have done. Okay? If it was done correctly. If it was not done correctly, please check all of your ports on your robot. Make sure that, for example, now you can see mine have A, B, and C are the ports that I'm using. It should look exactly like mine there. Your motor's connected in the back. And make sure, like you saw where I have mine, my arm has the arm all the way up, like so. I'm pretty sure Raymond's gonna love the part where I say like so. So let's make sure, let's test that again. All right. Actually, I changed to make the cube, put it the long way. This is to show that it can actually be grabbed in 2 different orientations. Let's run it one more time. Nice. Very, very nice. Okay, so that's what your program should have done. Okay. Run it one more time. It's just fun just looking at it do that. All right, cool. So if that's what your program have done, then you have done it correct. To navigate once again, I'm going to start from the very beginning. I am going to just click back to the first tab. So when your robot turns on, it's going to have, sorry for the blurriness. Okay, so it's going to be on that tab right there. We see where it's highlighted, it has a play button like icon with the programs underneath. Then you're going to just pretty much click over to the right one time. It should look like that. That's what your tab should look like next. All right. Once that is selected, make sure you have your program selected up top, like where right now mine says Color Cube Grabber. You want to scroll. You want to not scroll. You want to press the middle button. Then you see Program come underneath. You press down one time to highlight Program, and then when you're ready, you press the middle button to run your program. Okay, so you all have a good evening. I will see you all on Friday, and we will continue on to doing 2 hours of robotics to get this right if you haven't got it right before we move on to the next thing. All right, because I plan to use the ultrasonic sensor so we can use that to grab our cube. Excuse me. Okay, so have a good evening and see you all. Actually, well, have a good morning because it's like 2 something or 3 something in the morning. Don't worry about it. Have a good morning, and I will see you all Friday.